When we were colonists and fought a war against the king and the parliament so that we could secede from the British Empire and be independent of it, we also fought for the values of personal freedom. That is the idea that in matters of personal choice, the government should play no role. The king didn't care very much about the colonists' personal choices, so long as he could control them and tax them. One of the taxes he imposed was to support the Church of England. The Church of England that the colonist tax was supporting was, of course, in England. It was not here. So among the hateful taxes that impelled the colonists to revolt was this tax to support the king's church. When the Constitution was written, religious freedom was a principal matter for discussion and debate among the framers. They addressed this in the first clause of the First Amendment. Before the Constitution even protects the freedom of speech, it protects the natural right to worship or not to worship, free from the government. Here's what it says, quote, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." That is very direct and very clear. It was intended to prevent any tax money from going to a church, and it was intended to keep the government from using its coercive powers to influence or to punish religious institutions. For 125 years, most governments in America left our churches and religious institutions alone. Then along came the progressive attitude that some ethnic groups are better than others. This is a damnable and racist view that was put upon the federal government by Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson in direct response to the influx of Southern European immigrants at the beginning of the last century, most of whom were Roman Catholic. Wilson and Roosevelt and their progressive followers thought these immigrants had too many children who would grow up to be voters and vote out their nanny state central planning government. So they began to encourage birth control and sterilizations and even abortions. The Catholic Church resisted this by its teachings on birth control. The Church had made its teaching on contraception a core part of its mission for over 400 years. And Pope Paul VI reaffirmed these teachings in a permanent way in 1967. That the Church embraces these teachings is well known, and equally well known is the policy of the federal government to resist them. But that resistance reached unconstitutional proportions a few weeks ago when Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, herself a Roman Catholic, issued regulations that require all employers in America to make contraceptive materials and devices available to their employees. The all employers includes Catholic universities and Catholic hospitals and Catholic schools and Catholic churches themselves. And the failure to comply with this law will result in a fine to these institutions and the provision of contraceptive devices to their employees by the government itself. This is quite literally Congress making a law that interferes with the free exercise of religion. This is not about the morality of contraception. This is about the constitutionality of government coercion, coercion of religious institutions, coercion directly and profoundly prohibited by the Constitution itself. The motivation for the coercion, that Catholics have too many kids, is reprehensible. And those in government who embrace that and who are willing to use the power of government to promulgate that should be voted out of office. But the coercion is the same as that faced by the folks who seceded from the king because of his tax to pay for a church to which they did not choose to belong. America, we have a king again today, and he wants a tax to pay for his church. The king is the president, and the church is called ObamaCare. Don't let this happen. This is not just a Catholic issue. This is an issue about whether the Constitution means what it says. Does the Constitution let the government compel Jews to eat pork, or Protestants to genuflect, or Muslims to own dogs, or Catholics to pay for contraception? The answer is obvious.